Welcome back to Season 3 of Expedition Bigfoot. I'm your host Aggie.
And I'm Emma. We start this exciting episode off with Ronny and Mireya talking about the shadow figure they seen on the ravine. It went from right to left then downwards to disappear. Mireya tries to understand and make sense to her as to what she saw, but it doesn't make sense. Ronny say it's a shadow of a Bigfoot. Mireya then calls Bryce to tell them about what they saw. Bryce tells them to go to the top of the ridge, the next morning, to investigate. Later that night, she hears rocks fall. Whispers, during her confessional, but when she calls Ronny she yells. Ronny thinks they are in a Bigfoot nesting area.
At around 2:40 a.m., Ronny hears a whistle from the area where the rocks were being thrown. It was dark and silent, and he thinks it was Bigfoot communicating with another Bigfoot or warning sign to them. Tells Mireya in the morning about the whistling. Later that day, they meet Bryce to see the results of the shadow video. Ronny tells her about Indian myths about Bigfoot cloaking. Mireya can only roll her own eyes at this revelation, as she has been searching for primates for years. Ronny says that only a cloaked Bigfoot can do this and no other animal can do this. Mireya doesn't believe it. He then reminds her of last year when an animal brushed up against her that she couldn't see. They then show Jane Goodall, a controversial primatologist who tells Mireya to keep an open mind while searching, something Ronny and Russell need to heed. They see Bigfoot everywhere. Like last year when Russell chased two, then discovered it was two bears. If you expect to find something, you will see it everywhere.
Bryce shows them the close-up of the shadow. Ronny says it's an example classic Bigfoot walking and standing up. Mireya says she now understands eyewitnesses who tell their encounters, but she still can't explain it. It appears only to get smaller, like a bear standing on 2 feet and falling down to all 4. But there was no sign of a bear. Ronny says it's evidence of Bigfoot cloaking. Everything points to Bigfoot, especially with Ronny. Mireya says the footage is shocking and she has to find physical evidence by going to the ridge. Bryce talks about shapeshifters and again Ronny talks about Bigfoot cloaking. Mireya continues, rolls her eyes. Later Ronny and Mireya approached the ridgeline. Mireya is still bothered by the shadow, while Ronny thinks he sees footprints. Mireya shows him that the rock sounds were from rocks being pushed by something walking. Ronny thinks it's a juvenile Bigfoot or its mother trying to scare the two off. He says curiosity will bring them near. So the two decide to make a mock tent set up with camera traps.
They set up a decoy camp and use infrared floodlights to capture whatever eye goes into camp. Ronny says Bigfoot likes tents and this will draw them in. Then they will use camera traps to film. They begin their stakeout. Ronny says anything that goes into camp will be lit up like a Christmas tree. Mireya's battery dies, she replaces it, then Ronny's eye or camera goes dead. He is now a sitting duck. They hear noises. Ronny says it's a Bigfoot warning. Mireya says it sounded like a woman's scream. Then the lights go on. It's behind Ronny.
Bryce goes to Lake Bigfoot, her last week's episode where something mimicked his whistle. He believes Bigfoot is aquatic. A new theory is that when Bigfoot dies they throw the remains into lakes. Bruce utilizes a submersible drone that can go 200 meters deep and can travel 5 knots per hour. It will take 8 hours to search the entire lake. Bryce is certain that he will find something if Bigfoot is using the lake for a burial ground. The commentator says a photo was taken recently of a Bigfoot exiting a lake. Bryce thinks he sees something weird in lake. It's a stick figure, with a log attached to it with 2 sticks folded behind it. He contemplates it, like a scientist. He says appears like a child's doll and it gives him the chills just looking at it. He then says that he needs to find someone who knows about it.
4.5 miles away, Russell makes camp on an island betwixt the river. He thinks he's being stalked by something big. That night he hears a noise like footsteps crossing water and thinks it's bipedal. He needs to know what it is, so he gets up and begins to search for it. Then hears a branch break and thinks something was thrown at them. He believes it's close, but can't find anything on the thermal. Whatever it is, he thinks it made its way to the canyon floor. Russell begins to walk along the river to find it because it's tracking him and trailing him. He finds weeds that have been trampled, but he wants to find a footprint and thinks it's Bigfoot that made the destruction. He continues to track the unknown creature and knows it's not Bambi he's looking for. He says Bigfoot is omnivore, but berries are its favorite. The huckleberries have been picked clean. Then they hear something. He says it's in front of them on a well-used game trail. He hears a branch break and tells the cameraman to stand near him as they are being followed. Now, it's behind them and it's big. Russell says they are in a bad spot and wants the camera in front of him to capture anything behind him. Tells the cameraman to go, but there is nothing on his thermal. He still maintains that there is something circling them and it's getting closer. He then tells the cameraman to keep it focused. The cameraman says, "On what?" Well, that will do it for today. Please come back next week for another exciting edition of Expedition Bigfoot. I'm Aggie Flores. I hope to see you next week.
And I'm Emma Holmes. I hope to see you next week. Have a blessed week.
Thank you for watching. As always, please subscribe to our channel. Please like, comment, subscribe and share. See you next week.